It was a shooting in the middle of the day involving a well-known rapper, according to police. We reported this story back in October, but now we're seeing how it all went down. Bullets fly in broad daylight. 2 people shot and over $500,000 in exotic cars, all of it caught on camera. This surveillance video is from an October 9th shooting in Bay Harbor Islands.
CG Lil Hank, one of Pooh Shiesty's most trusted soldiers, somebody who really stood next to him during that Shiesty season run, is now at the center of something wild. This is a guy who came up with Choppa Gang from day one, built that bond from the ground up, no shortcuts. But now footage pops up from inside prison, and it's got people talking heavy. He's seen on camera, holding a shank and cooling with EBG Jizzle, one of Pooh's top rivals. And it gets even messier. We're talking about the same EBG crew that's been clashing with Choppa Gang for years. No peace, no breaks. The same EBG side that disrespected Pooh's late brother, the same group that's been throwing shots, both in words and actions, at everything Pooh Shiesty built from scratch. Yet here's Lil Hank, posted up smiling, looking relaxed, like none of that history even mattered. This ain't just random talk online. This hits deeper than that. It raises serious questions about loyalty, about what those Memphis street ties really stand for, and whether the circle around Pooh was ever as solid as they made it seem. Something about this situation feels off, and people are starting to notice. I'm about to break this whole situation down step by step, because it only gets more intense from here. But before diving into what Lil Hank just did, you've got to understand the foundation, what Pooh Shiesty really built, and how serious that EBG tension was on a personal level. Without that context, this whole situation won't hit the same. Pooh Shiesty, born Deno Williams Jr. on November 8, 1999, comes straight out of South Memphis, Tennessee, and that place is no joke. Memphis ranks as one of the most dangerous cities per capita in the entire US, and that's not exaggeration, that's reality. This isn't somewhere people pretend about street ties. This is where those situations turn serious fast, where every move can come with real consequences. The numbers speak loud too. The homicide rates have been right up there with places like Chicago, and the environment stays tense. People move cautious, the neighborhoods are tight, and everything feels intense. The streets aren't just stories. They shape how people live every single day. Now, Pooh didn't grow up sheltered at all. He was raised in the Cane Creek apartments in South Memphis, right alongside his childhood friend and fellow rapper, Big 30. From early on, he was surrounded by that raw environment, learning how things move and how to carry himself. And music? That was already part of his life. His father, who went by Mob Boss, was a rapper too, and even ran his own label called Mob Ties Records. So the influence was there from the start. Music mixed with that gritty Memphis energy, unfiltered and real. While still in high school, Pooh linked up with his close circle and helped form Choppa Gang. This wasn't just about making tracks. This was a tight-knit group, a brotherhood where loyalty meant everything. The people in that circle were supposed to be solid, the ones who had his back no matter what. Names like Lil Hank and Choppa Wop weren't random. They were there from the beginning. These weren't just collaborators. These were day one guys who helped build Choppa Gang from nothing, before any spotlight showed up. Back then, Pooh Shiesty was sharpening his craft, freestyling in the school lunchroom, building that sound from the ground up. On the block, in the halls, wherever he could spark a freestyle circle, Pooh was putting in work non-stop. By 2019, he started dropping music on his own. No big backing, just raw grind. Tracks like Hell Night and Choppa Talk started gaining traction, and Big 30, his day one brother, was right there with him every step of the way. Then 2020 flipped everything upside down in the best way. Out of nowhere, hip-hop legend Gucci Mane hits his Instagram DMs with, "I'm listening to your stuff. You're hard. Are you signed?" That moment changed everything. Pooh kept it real, said he was independent, and just like that, boom, Gucci Mane signed him to 1017 Records in partnership with Atlantic Records. That things move fast, real fast. He dropped Monday to Sunday with Lil Baby and Big 30, linked up on tracks with Gucci, and started appearing on projects that were pulling serious numbers. His name was ringing louder by the day. Then November 2020 hit, and that's when things exploded. Back in Blood with Lil Durk dropped and took over. The track climbed all the way to number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100 and went platinum in just 4 months. That song pushed Pooh Shiesty into a whole new level, no debate. By February 2021, he delivered Shiesty Season and it came in heavy. Debuted at number 3 on the Billboard 200 and grabbed the number 1 spot on the top rap albums chart. The features were stacked. Lil Durk, Gucci Mane, Big 30, 21 Savage, and right there in the mix were Lil Hank and Choppa Wop too. The track Big 13 Gang had Lil Hank on it, making it clear. He wasn't just around. He was part of the movement, part of the brand, part of the circle, and benefiting from everything Pooh Shiesty was building from the ground up. So when I say what Lil Hank just did is a serious issue, you've got to understand the full history behind it. This wasn't some random guy on the side. He was a core piece of the circle, someone deeply tied into everything Pooh Shiesty was building. Now here's where things take a sharp turn. To really understand why people are reacting like this to Lil Hank being seen with EBG, you need to know what EBG actually represents and why that tension runs so deep for Pooh on a personal level. EBG stands for East Side Bezel Gang, a group based out of North Memphis. Meanwhile, Pooh and Choppa Gang come from South Memphis, and in that city, where you're from carries serious weight. North and South Memphis move differently. Different alliances, different backgrounds, different histories that don't always mix. But here's the part that makes this even more intense. A lot of people forget that Pooh Shiesty and EBG weren't always on bad terms. Before the fame, before the music took off, Pooh and Jizzle actually crossed paths at Central High School in Memphis. They knew each other way before any of this turned into headlines. So how did things spiral from school connections into one of the most talked about rivalries in Memphis rap? That shift didn't just happen out of nowhere. It really started gaining attention with Back in Blood. When Pooh Shiesty dropped that track with Lil Durk, listeners in Memphis quickly picked up on certain lines, especially that hook, where he's talking about someone knowing who took something and telling them to come get it, back in blood. People started connecting dots immediately, and from there, the tension only grew louder. It was widely believed those lyrics were pointing to an alleged robbery situation. According to EBG in interviews, he claimed that Pooh Shiesty and his people supposedly hit one of their locations and took weapons. Now from Pooh's side, the way it came across in the music made it sound like a major power move, something serious. But EBG told a different story. He downplayed the whole situation, saying it wasn't even that deep. Nobody was there. Nothing major was lost. Still, Pooh was rapping about it like it was a huge win, and that contrast only made things more heated. Jizzle didn't stay quiet either. He fired back with a diss track over the Back in Blood instrumental, and that's when everything escalated fast. What started as music quickly turned into something way more serious. The songs weren't just entertainment anymore. They became a way to send messages tied to real-life tension. But here's where it crossed into something personal. This is the part that really shifted everything and had people looking at the situation differently. In his response, EBG Jizzle brought up Pooh Shiesty's late brother and made serious allegations, claiming he was a snitch and saying it runs in the blood. That kind of statement goes way beyond music. That's not regular back and forth. That's a deep level of disrespect that hits family, even those who have passed. Situations like that carry weight anywhere, and people don't take those words lightly. After that diss dropped, reports came out that EBG was later shot and seriously injured. Around that same time, Pooh Shiesty took to Instagram and reacted publicly, which only added more attention and intensity to everything already unfolding. He even posted things like, "Damn, that dude dissed, now he can't even walk," with laughing emojis all over it. He kept calling them out, asking where they disappeared to, really putting it all out there in public. It was clear he wasn't holding back at all, adding more tension to an already heated situation. Now people can look at that however they want, but in the context of someone speaking on his late brother, that was his reaction. And in those environments, people understood exactly what it meant. And the situation didn't just end there, it kept unfolding. EBG later ended up facing serious legal trouble, including attempted first-degree charges, though he initially managed to get out on bond. His history already had people paying attention. He had beaten a major case before and still carried himself with confidence. Meanwhile, the tension between both sides never truly got resolved. It didn't disappear, it just moved quieter as legal issues started stacking up on both ends. Then everything shifted again when Pooh Shiesty himself got caught up in a major case. In October 2020, he was arrested in Bay Harbor Islands, Florida. tied to a shooting incident at a hotel connected to a deal that went wrong. Reports said surveillance cameras captured key moments of what happened, putting even more focus on the case. Authorities claimed a 28-year-old man was injured, and during the aftermath, when Pooh left the scene in a rented McLaren, a Louis Vuitton bag allegedly fell from the vehicle with over $40,000 inside. That detail alone had people talking everywhere. What made it even more intense? Investigators reportedly traced a $100 bill from that same money back to his Instagram, connecting things in a way that raised even more questions. The situation quickly turned into something much bigger than music, pulling everything into a serious spotlight. In April 2022, Pooh Shiesty was sentenced to 5 years and 3 months in federal prison after taking a plea deal on a firearm conspiracy charge. That deal mattered a lot because 3 other serious charges were dropped, and one of them could have led to a life sentence. So that decision changed everything for his future. He's been locked up since 2021, serving federal time, and even from behind bars, he's kept his voice loud. Posting, speaking confidently, calling himself the King of Memphis, saying he's coming back strong and that his loyalty stands solid. That's the image he's been putting out the whole time. But while he's been inside, people on the outside, and even those paying attention to what's going on behind those walls, have been watching closely. And that's exactly where this CG Lil Hank situation starts to raise eyebrows. Now here's where things really take a turn. This is the moment that had everyone talking. CG Lil Hank. This isn't just any name being thrown around. Let's be clear again. CG stands for Choppa Gang. His name is directly tied to Pooh Shiesty's circle, stamped right there from the start. This isn't someone on the outside looking in. This is someone who was part of the foundation. He was featured on Shiesty Season, Pooh's breakout project that hit number 3 on the Billboard 200 and pushed him into another level of fame. Lil Hank was right there on the track Big 13 Gang alongside Pooh Shiesty and Choppa Wop, showing he was fully involved in the movement from early on. He was a confirmed Choppa Gang affiliate, someone clearly tied in, benefiting from one of the biggest movements in Memphis rap at the time. This wasn't a background figure. He was eating off that spotlight right alongside the team. And now this same Lil Hank is being seen inside prison on camera, holding a knife and kicking it with EBG Jizzle. Let that sink in for a second. Not just anybody, EBG Jizzle. And don't get it confused. That EBG in his name isn't random. It's not some different group or coincidence. That's the same EBG, East Side Bezel Gang, the exact crew that's been in conflict with Pooh Shiesty's side for years. The same group tied to all that past tension. The same side that disrespected his late brother. The same side connected to everything Choppa Gang stood against. And Lil Hank wasn't just standing nearby like it was some forced situation. He looked comfortable, relaxed, showing off for the camera, holding that knife, posted up like he was around familiar faces. The energy didn't look tense. It looked normal, like none of that history mattered in that moment. Once that footage hit social media, it spread fast. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere. And instantly, people started going back and forth in the comments. Some were defending Lil Hank, saying things like it's different in prison or people have to adapt to survive, trying to explain it away. But not everyone is buying that explanation. A lot of people are questioning how far that reasoning really goes, especially when you look at the history behind all of this. There's a big difference between surviving in prison and getting comfortable with somebody your own side once called an enemy. There's a difference between ending up in the same unit as someone and posing beside them with a knife like everything is cool. And in federal prison, word moves fast. People talk, phones are everywhere, and information travels way quicker than outsiders think. Pooh Shiesty has been posting from behind bars himself, so let's be real. People are asking the obvious question. You really think he didn't hear about this? You really think nobody sent that footage his way? Now, to be fair, if Lil Hank was just keeping his head down and trying to avoid problems, that would be a different conversation. Prison politics are tricky, no question. You can't always choose who you're around, and sometimes keeping things calm is part of making it through the day. People who understand that environment know it's not always black and white. Sometimes you have to share space with people you wouldn't even speak to on the outside. That part makes sense. But this? Being on camera, holding a knife, posted up with EBG, and then letting that image hit social media? That feels way different. Whether Lil Hank meant it or not, it looked like a statement. It looked like the beef Pooh Shiesty stood on, risked his freedom around and built a whole Memphis image from, didn't carry the same weight to him. To a lot of people watching, that moment made Chopper Gang loyalty look shaky. Like once the prison yard got involved, the old rules started bending real quick. And that's when the internet started connecting the dots. Pooh is serving 63 months in federal prison, still posting about loyalty, respect, and staying solid. He's been presenting himself as the example of what real loyalty is supposed to look like. So seeing someone tied to his own circle moving like this, yeah, that's why people lost it. He even wrote from behind bars, "Dear streets, use me as an example of what keeping it solid and standing on what you say look like. I ain't never folding, I stamp it." That's someone who truly believes in his circle. That's someone moving with full confidence that his people are holding things down just like he is. That kind of message shows trust. It shows he's doing his time while expecting the same loyalty in return. He's been talking about coming home strong too, saying he's got multiple albums ready, saying he's stepping back out with a point to prove. All of that only works if the people around you are still locked in the same way. Then this situation hits. Lil Hank, tied to Chopper Gang, seen in prison with EBG, posing with a blade, looking completely at ease. No tension, no distance, just calm energy, like none of the past issues mattered. And here's a detail people aren't overlooking: the knife. That part stands out for a reason, because Pooh Shiesty himself mentioned in a prison post that anyone going against him would have to step their knife and gun game up. So that image carries weight. In that environment, holding something like that in a photo isn't random. It signals confidence, presence, and who you're comfortable around. You don't casually do that next to just anybody. That kind of moment doesn't come off neutral. It sends a message whether it was meant to or not. That's why people started looking deeper into it. Online discussions took off, and one big question kept coming up again and again. Was this a one-time situation, or is there more behind the scenes that people haven't seen yet? In hip-hop, when someone from your circle gets caught in a situation like this once, people might brush it off as a one-time thing. But when you zoom out and really look at the bigger picture, who was around Pooh before he got locked up, who benefited from his rise, and who's still active while he's been away, you start asking some serious questions. Here's where it gets real. When someone goes to federal prison for a long stretch, their circle gets tested in ways you can't fake. The dynamics change fast, money starts flowing differently, opportunities shift, and loyalty gets stretched to the limit. People who were once eating alongside you have to figure out how to move without you. Some stay solid and keep everything intact. Others, they start moving different. And then there are those who drift toward the same people they were once against because survival starts to outweigh everything else. Through it all, Pooh Shiesty has kept projecting the same image. Even from behind bars, he's been talking like nothing changed. At one point, he even mentioned ordering luxury cars while locked up, making it clear he still sees himself operating at a high level. He made it known, being locked up didn't mean he lost control of his position. He's also shown love to artists like Lil Baby, Lil Durk, and others who stayed in contact and supported him consistently. That part matters because it shows who remained in his corner during the hardest time. But when it comes to that CG in Lil Hank's name, the Chopper Gang label he's supposed to stand on, that's where people are starting to look closer. Because that name represents more than just affiliation. It represents loyalty, history, and everything that came with building that movement from the ground up. That CG label clearly hits different for Lil Hank than it does for Pooh Shiesty, and that's what has people talking. And to keep it fair, this isn't about going at Lil Hank just for attention. The streets have their own code, and prison comes with a whole different set of rules. There are people who will argue that in the federal system, especially in controlled units, you don't always get to choose who you're around. Sometimes you have to exist in the same space as people you had issues with on the outside just to keep things from escalating. That perspective is real, and it deserves to be acknowledged. But here's where that argument starts to fall apart. It doesn't explain the photo. It doesn't explain the relaxed energy, the body language, the comfort level. And it definitely doesn't explain posing with a weapon next to someone tied to EBG, because moments like that suggest more than just coexistence. That suggests a level of trust, and showing that kind of trust towards someone your side had serious issues with, while your own guy is locked up expecting loyalty, that's where people draw the line. So what happened next? How did Pooh Shiesty respond when all this started spreading? Because it didn't stay quiet for long. That image moved fast. Fans reposted it everywhere, tagged his accounts, sent it to people in his circle, making sure it reached him. In today's world, nothing stays hidden. Once something hits the internet, it's everywhere instantly. And here's what makes it even more intense. Pooh Shiesty isn't known for staying silent in situations like this. He's reacted quickly in the past to things involving his rivals, speaking out without hesitation. So when this situation started gaining traction, people were watching closely, waiting to see if and how he would respond. This is someone who's been sending messages from behind federal prison walls, not staying quiet at all, posting cryptic lines, calling himself the menace of Memphis, and letting it be known he's still standing on business even while locked up. He's told doubters straight up they better get their knife and game right. That's not someone who sits back and waits. That's someone who reacts. So based on how he's moved in the past, people are already connecting the dots. The word going around is simple. He's cut Lil Hank off completely. Not a warning, not a "we'll talk later," just done. Because from everything people have seen, once Pooh Shiesty makes that decision about someone, there's no coming back from it. And looking at it from that perspective, people are saying this kind of situation crosses a line instantly. Seeing someone from your own circle looking comfortable around a known rival, especially in that kind of setting, is being viewed as something that doesn't need explanation. It speaks for itself. Now, some fans are still trying to look at it from another angle, saying maybe it's not as serious as it seems. Maybe there's context missing. Maybe Lil Hank just ended up in a situation he couldn't control. And to be fair, that side of the argument exists. Prison environments are complicated. Federal facilities bring together people from all kinds of different backgrounds, and you don't always get to pick who's around you. But here's what really stands out. In street culture, perception carries serious weight. How something looks can matter just as much as what actually happened. Because reputation affects everything. How people move with you, how opportunities come your way, and how your circle holds together. So when someone closely tied to your name is seen looking relaxed with a known rival while you're locked up speaking on loyalty, that image alone can shift how everything is viewed. And once that perception changes, it's hard to control what comes next. Pooh Shiesty built his name on being real, on that raw Memphis authenticity that people respect. He came up under Gucci Mane's label, a figure known for pushing that real, recognize real mindset in trap culture. And Pooh carried that same energy in everything he did. And from behind bars, his message hasn't changed. He's been speaking on staying solid when nobody's watching, not folding under pressure and being the example others look at. That's the image he's been standing on this whole time. So when someone from his own circle flips that image the other way, it hits different. It's not just disappointing, it clashes directly with everything he's been representing. Think about the position. You're locked up, serving time, unable to step in or control anything happening outside. You're trusting your people to hold things down, to move the same way you would. And then someone tied to your name, someone carrying that CG label, is seen around a group that's been connected to serious past issues. That's the part that makes people react. The history, the tension, everything tied into it. It all adds weight to that one moment. And once the footage hit, it didn't stay quiet. The streets picked it up, and the internet made sure it spread everywhere. Now, zooming out, this situation isn't just about Lil Hank alone. It speaks to something bigger happening in hip-hop, especially in Memphis. Memphis has always had a reputation for being one of the most authentic rap scenes out there. When artists from that city speak on street ties, people tend to take it seriously because of the environment they come from. The struggles are real, the stories come from lived experiences, and the intensity behind the music reflects that reality. That's why situations like this get so much attention. They connect to something deeper than just one moment. The street dynamics in Memphis come with real consequences. People don't just make it out by dropping music, they make it out by surviving first. Names like Young Dolph, Yo Gotti, Moneybagg, Yo, and Pooh Shiesty all came from real situations and turned that into success. And a big part of what made their music connect was that authenticity. But here's where things get complicated. When someone rises from that environment to a higher level, not everybody around them grows the same way. The lifestyle changes, the money increases, the opportunities open up. But the mindset doesn't always evolve for everyone involved. Some people are built to handle the struggle, but not the pressure that comes with success, or the reality of legal trouble that can follow. And when those moments hit, that's when true character starts to show. The ones who were there early aren't always the ones who stay solid later. Just being around during the come-up doesn't automatically mean someone is ready for what comes next. Lil Hank was seen as more than just an artist on a track. He was supposed to represent that core circle. But being part of a major project like Season wasn't what made someone solid. That project was supposed to reflect the loyalty that was already there. Now, people are questioning whether that recognition came before everything was truly tested. And that's something that keeps coming up in hip-hop again and again. Someone rises, brings their circle with them, gives everyone opportunities, and then when things shift, especially with legal issues involved, the circle starts to change. The pressure reveals different sides of people, and choices start to show who was really grounded and who was just along for the ride. And the EBG angle makes this situation even more layered, because there's a big question people keep circling around. Is that tension between Choppa Gang and EBG still active right now? Or has time shifted things behind the scenes? Here's where it gets interesting. Pooh Shiesty was released early from prison on October 6, 2025, and he didn't waste time getting back to music. By December 2025, he dropped his comeback single F, and it climbed up to number 22 on the Billboard Hot 100. That shows he's still got momentum and attention. So now people are looking at the timeline closely. If Lil Hank was seen getting comfortable around EBG while Pooh was still locked up, and now Pooh is back home, that creates a situation that can't just be ignored. That's the kind of thing that usually leads to serious conversations face to face. And in Memphis, those talks don't always stay simple. The history behind everything adds pressure, and emotions can run high, depending on how things are viewed, especially when you look at what Pooh Shiesty himself said before getting out. In a 2023 interview on $1 Million Worth of Game, he made his mindset clear, saying, "I'm back for revenge for sure. Get out the way or get ran over. Get down or get put up. Y'all know how I'm coming." Those words stuck with people. He also mentioned having multiple projects ready, saying the industry wasn't prepared for what he had coming. That kind of energy doesn't sound like someone planning to overlook situations that challenge loyalty. Based on how he's handled disrespect in the past, even while he was behind bars, people expect a strong reaction to anything that questions his circle. Now that he's back outside, the spotlight is even bigger, and every move is being watched closely. The streets have been talking about this for months now, and people who stayed tapped in already had their eyes on it. When Pooh Shiesty said he was coming back with pressure, a lot of folks took that to mean everything, not just toward rivals, but also toward anyone in his own circle who moved different while he was gone. Now let's get into the argument fans keep bringing up, because it's actually worth breaking down properly. A lot of people are defending Lil Hank by saying prison politics aren't the same as outside politics. The point they make is simple. When you're locked up, you don't always control your surroundings. You can end up around people you would never associate with on the outside, especially in federal facilities where everyone from different cities and backgrounds gets placed together. Some even say it's smarter to keep things calm in there, that trying to carry outside conflicts into that environment can make things worse, especially when you're outnumbered or in unfamiliar territory. So from that perspective, coexisting isn't about switching sides, it's about staying safe. And to keep it real, there is some truth to that. People who've experienced the system or know others who have will tell you the same thing. The way things operate inside doesn't always match how things are handled outside. That's what makes this situation so debated. Because while some see it as survival, others see it as something way deeper. And that difference in perspective is exactly why this keeps getting so much attention. You might have serious tension in Memphis, but then end up locked in a federal spot in another state, dealing with a whole different environment, different alliances, and new pressures. That shift is real, and self-preservation becomes a priority for a lot of people. But here's the part that keeps standing out, and it's a big one. Even if you accept all of that, the photo changes everything. If someone is just trying to stay low and avoid problems, they're not posing for pictures. If the goal is to keep things neutral, you don't go on camera holding a knife next to someone tied to a known rival group, because in today's world, especially in that environment, everyone knows those images don't stay private. They spread fast. People inside know it, and people on the outside will see it almost instantly. So when that kind of photo surfaces, it doesn't come off as random. It looks like a decision. Whether it was fully thought out or not, it still sends a message. And that message to a lot of people watching suggests that Lil Hank either isn't concerned about how Pooh Shiesty will take it or believes the fallout won't reach him. And that right there is where the pressure really builds. Because once a situation like this goes public, it doesn't just fade away, it grows. People start picking sides, conversations get louder, and every move after that gets watched closely. Now think about the position Lil Hank is in. His name is tied to Choppa Gang, his history is tied to Pooh Shiesty, and his recent actions are now being questioned by a massive audience. That's not something you can just ignore and hope it disappears. At the same time, all eyes are on Pooh Shiesty too. People are waiting to see how he handles it, because his response sets the tone. Does he address it directly? Does he move in silence? Or does he show through actions how he feels about the situation? And in this kind of environment, silence can speak just as loud as words. If nothing gets said publicly, people start reading into that too. Every post, every move, every lyric, fans will be analyzing it, trying to connect the dots. Meanwhile, the internet keeps doing what it does best, digging deeper. Old clips, old photos, past connections. Everything starts resurfacing. People want to know if this was a one-time moment or if there were signs leading up to it. That's how situations like this evolve. It stops being about one photo and turns into a bigger story about loyalty, perception, and how fast things can shift when the spotlight is on. And now everything hits a turning point. Because moments like this don't just test one person, they test the entire brand, the whole movement behind the name. What Choppa Gang stands for is being questioned in real time, and people are paying close attention. Lil Hank isn't just any name in the mix. He's someone who was there early, someone who shared space on major tracks, someone who benefited from that rise. So when his actions don't line up with what the brand represents, it creates tension that's hard to ignore. At the same time, this puts pressure on everyone connected. Not just Pooh Shiesty, but anybody tied to that circle. Because now fans are watching to see who speaks up, who stays quiet, and who distances themselves. And in today's culture, perception moves fast. One moment can reshape how people view years of history. It can make supporters question what was real and what was just for show. That's why this situation feels bigger than just one clip. It's about consistency. It's about whether the image that was built matches the actions when things get uncomfortable. Because when the spotlight is on and the pressure is high, that's when everything gets revealed. Not just loyalty, but priorities, decisions, and where people really stand when it matters most. And right now, all of that is being watched, discussed, and judged in real time. And both of those outcomes, yeah, they're a serious issue for someone who stamped their name on a record and claimed Choppa Gang. That title comes with meaning, and right now, people are questioning what it really stands for. But here's another layer that a lot of people keep missing. This wasn't just any EBG member in the picture. This was EBG Jizzle, someone widely seen as a key figure on that side. That detail matters a lot. This wasn't some random link-up with someone loosely connected. This was being seen next to a person who represents the other side in a major way, the kind of figure people instantly recognize when they talk about that situation. And people aren't confused about that. The streets know who's who, and the internet definitely keeps track of it all. By now, everyone understands exactly how these names connect and what history is tied to them. So when that image pops up, showing both of them looking relaxed, it doesn't leave much room for doubt. People aren't guessing. They're reacting to exactly what they see. And that's why this moment hits so hard. Because sometimes you don't need explanations when the visual already tells the story. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think this really means? Was this just a situation blown out of proportion, or is there something deeper going on? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this with someone who's been following the story, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more breakdowns like this.